morning, good afternoon, good evening folks. Welcome back to the Mozza Plays YouTube channel, and thank you very much for all the support on the first Footium video that we put out. Had a fair few comments, had a lot of people reaching out to me in DMs as well. Appreciate every single one of you showing interest, not just in Footium itself but also on the channel, because it's going to be a mainstay of this YouTube going forward. You're going to get likely weekly or bi-weekly videos on it as we progress, but I'll get into it later on in my personal plans for it. Today's video is all about getting involved yourself. So you've got to the point now where you have maybe watched the first video, and by the way, if you haven't done so, really recommend you go and do that first. You have done your research into Footium as a project and you've decided that you quite want to get involved with it. So the first thing I'm going to cover is how to buy a club. The second thing I'll cover is if you can't afford to buy a club, or you just would rather get involved in a different way, the other ways that you can potentially play the game. Some through myself and some through other projects that are coming up just now that are quite exciting. Not just for the crypto space, not just for Footium, but they could expand into other areas as well, so we'll see what happens with them. Just as we're getting into things though, quick reminder, I am not a qualified financial advisor. I cannot give you any financial advice. Do not base your decision on this YouTube video or what I say. Do your own research. If you need more help, go and get that help. Do not FOMO in. FOMO is a term you hear a lot, fear of missing out. Don't jump in and regret it later on. Make sure you make a full conscious decision based on all the facts and all the information. And if you do jump in, make sure you don't regret it. So with all that said, drop a like in the video if this is useful to you as you go along. Consider hitting that subscribe button for more Footium content as the weeks go by. But let's get started with OpenSea.io and how to buy yourself a club on the marketplace. So OpenSea is an NFT marketplace, an NFT website where you can buy several NFTs from several different projects. We are just going to focus on Footium today and how to go about that, but this in principle should work for anything you want to buy on there, be it a game, just be it the art side, be anything you want really. And to explain how this works in making a purchase on OpenSea, I need to explain a little bit of the basics about Ethereum as well, because when you see a price quoted on this website, it is not just that price you're going to pay. And bear in mind, all these transactions will be done in Ether, in the Ethereum blockchain. So you will need to convert your pounds and pence, your dollars, your euros into Ether before you make the transaction. But every transaction in Ethereum has what's called a gas fee attached to it. And the easiest way to think of gas is, well, it's an American word for petrol. Every transaction needs petrol to happen. So if you imagine there's a team of guys who are processing transactions on Ethereum, this might not be too far from the truth, but obviously it's not just a little team of guys, and they've got a pile of work sitting on their side. They are picking off the top on who is paying the most petrol, in this case, who's paying the highest transaction fee, and they're just working through them one by one. So at a busy time in the network, you're going to have more transactions there and people are paying more gas fees to get their things done. Whereas at the quieter times, it's going to be a lot cheaper to get them done. So there are websites that you can go on to. I'll link one in the description just now. Even if you just go to Google and type in Ethereum Gas Fees, you'll see a rough idea of what they are just now, and they're measured in something called GWEI, G-W-E-I. The easiest way I've found to try and translate that to a real transaction on OpenSea is roughly equate that to dollars. So if you see 100 GWEI is the level just now, that's quite high. That means that you could be paying up to $100 as a transaction fee, and you'd rather not. The cheapest I've seen it go down to weekends has been about 50, but obviously it can vary. Over Christmas time it went as low as kind of 39, 40, but that's the cheapest it's been in forever as far as I can see. So that's something you're going to have to factor in, and you're going to have to buy enough Ether initially to not only buy your club, but also to cover the transaction fee involved. So you're at the point where you've got a club in mind. We'll bring up one just now just for a look. Say this is a club you want to purchase and you've got a price there as well. Currently clubs are sitting around about 0.2 Ether as a floor price. A floor price just means the bottom the cheapest price you can buy in to any given project. You'll see a floor mentioned a lot, that's all it means. So if you want to go for one of these clubs, say that's 0.2 ETH, and you are going to put your money in, let's use pounds and pence as this example. To make a transaction on OpenSea, you need to have a wallet. In this case, I'm going to use MetaMask as the example because it's what I use. But when you go to register on OpenSea, you'll see all sorts of different wallets. Do your research into them and decide which one's best for you. MetaMask, personally, I found really easy to use, and I'd recommend it purely based on ease of use. But when you go into your MetaMask, there are different ways of putting proper money, fiat money as it's known, pounds and pence, dollars, euros, into Ether. I have used Wire to do it myself, which just takes the money straight from your bank, put your bank details in with your bank card, and it converts it into Ethereum straight away for you there and then, and it'll tell you how much you've got. And the only thing to make sure with this is, as I said before, make sure you've got enough there, because if you need to go back and add more, you're going to pay another transaction fee, and you do not want to double dip when you don't have to, because I see it as wasted money in that case. If you could do it all in one transaction rather than split over two with two fees, why wouldn't you? So let's get to it. You go to a club on OpenSea you're going to buy. I'll show you this on screen now so you've got an illustration of it, how it works. You accept all the terms and conditions and so on as you go through it. MetaMask pops up. You will notice that it automatically works out roughly what your gas fees will be. Here's a little tip. I have never paid what it initially says on the gas fees, because you can manually go into edit. You can go, instead of medium, down to low, and all that means is instead of an instant transaction going through, you might need to make 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, but it will go through with cheaper fees. I have always used low. It has always worked for me. It might not necessarily always work if the prices scoot up at the same time, but all it means is instead of an instant transaction, you might need to wait a few minutes, and as long as no one else beats you to the punch in those few minutes to buy your club, you'll still get it. The risk is if someone does jump ahead of you in the queue and buys the same club, you're not going to be charged for the overall buying of the club because you're not buying it. You will lose the gas fee though. The gas fee will come off regardless because it's still a transaction that you have attempted to do. So bear that in mind. There is a wee risk with playing it like that, especially if it's a very, very popular thing that you're trying to get in on, that things are going every couple of minutes. Footium right now, generally speaking, you should be okay to get away with it. With all that said, you'll get a little pop-up on your internet window when it's done to confirm the transaction's completed. You can then go into your profile on OpenSea and you'll see your club sitting there ready for use. At this point, when you go to the Footium website, you will now see an option when you're logging in with your MetaMask or other wallet that you can log in as your club, and you can see all the details in there, and this is how you will play the game when it launches fully as well. So you're all set. So that's the open marketplace on OpenSea. There are other ways of buying clubs. The main one is in the Discord. You will notice there's a channel. It's abbreviated: want to buy, want to sell, want to trade. If you would rather avoid the open market, paying the big fees and so on, and someone in the Discord is looking to sell, you can do a direct transaction with them and arrange it between yourselves. And that means that you will not pay the massive gas fees involved. I say massive, it depends on the marketplace at any given time, but you will save money on that side of things. You're basing that on goodwill between you and the other person though for that transaction. However, you might not want to buy a club. Either it's out of your price range at this given time, you're wanting to see how the game works before you invest quite a bit of money in, which in fairness, you're talking about a minimum investment right now of $600-700. It's a lot to jump into a game that you don't actually know how things are going to work yet. The flip side of that is people who are jumping in and buying several clubs will say speculate to accumulate. They're expecting it to work. We just need to wait and see. Obviously, I hope it does, given that I'm now invested in it. But you can also become a manager. Now, This is quite a new concept to me that I've had to do some research on, but some people out there own several clubs. We're talking double figures, 10, 15 clubs, and they're using them as an investment that they think will grow in value over time. But with the way Footium works, if your team gets relegated, it will lose value. So they will need someone to manage their team, hopefully to success, and get promotions, or at least, at the very least, maintain the level that they're in the division in the league. This will give an opportunity to people who potentially can offer their services as a manager for the club. They will be given access because there is an assistant manager feature that will allow you to log in the same way as if you owned the club, and you'll pick the lineups, the tactics and so on. But you could negotiate a share of profits. As an example, if your team comes top 3 in your league, there are prizes to be given out. What they are, we'll need to wait and see. Likewise with the cups, there'll be prizes. We won't know what they are until everything launches fully. But if you can establish yourself as a manager and you're offering your services out, especially if you get some past success behind you in the early days, there is nothing stopping you saying you will only do it if you get to profit share. So again, there are going to be several different ways of getting involved in Footium. Another way is through DAOs or DAOs, as you'll hear them referred to. DAOs are, think of it as a corporation taking over a football club, when you've got a lot of people in collaboration. And Newcastle's maybe an example to use in recent history, that obviously they've got the Saudi investment fund that's taking the club over, but it's not just them. They've got Amanda Staveley and they've got other people involved in that overall group that has assumed the club. Instead of a conglomerate though, a DAO is based on every individual coming together and having the same voting rights and the same power. It's more like a fan takeover of a club. Think AFC Wimbledon. You can join other like-minded people owning the club, just a share of that club. You can all have a vote on certain things that are happening. You can all have a say on certain things that are happening. And it might give you a totally different experience, a community experience in Footium, which might be more of interest than doing it all yourself or than simply being a manager. It's another avenue, and what I would recommend is checking out Midge Villa, amongst others, who have been putting out really good blogs on the subject, and that's the way that they are pursuing their avenue into Footium. It's worth a read. It's really worth a read. And that's just a very brief overview of how to get involved in the early stages. Beta is just about to launch when you're watching this video. I am hoping that I am in the first couple of tranches of it, because if I am, next week you'll get a first glimpse of how the beta gameplay looks. If not, it'll be here as soon as it's ready. But I will have another video coming down the line on my clubs that I own and how I will be running them. There's a few different ways, because I own 3 clubs now. I need to give a big thank you to the guys at Footium for presenting me with a club as well, because that particular club, Ketran Villa, my apologies, will be the club that you guys are going to manage. I will run it in the background, but I will give anyone who wants a go in management a couple of games, see how they go, learn the game, and then you can use that, if you win said games or you do a really good job, to go to these bigger clubs owned by the whales who own several clubs and say, right, there's my track record, I'm sure I know what I'm doing, give me a profit share, give me a gig. Hopefully it'll be a starting point. But that brings us to the end of this particular video. Just a nice simple one today, talking about how to get started in terms of putting your investments in. And I will finish off by letting you know how much I have invested in total and how it's worked, because I've been asked this a few times and I know it's something that will come up in the comments as well. So personally, I have put just over £600 Great British pounds of my own money into this project, and I did that in investing in 2 clubs initially. One Division A club, Penn City, who I'm not selling. They are my club going forward, and they will be a lot of the content on this channel. There was another club, however, that I bought, a Division 7 club, Eastmouth Rovers, 0.075 ETH it cost me at the time, which is not an insignificant outlay. You're talking the best part of $400, including fees and so on. So I sold them. When prices started to pick up, I managed to get them up for 0.4 ETH, and thankfully for me, somebody took it. So within the space of a couple of weeks, I made a very nice profit, and now I will use that money to spend on players and whatever else I want to do as we continue on with Penn City and another club now that I've picked out in South City, who will be my third club that actually are available to buy at this point on OpenSea. I will leave them there, and as soon as somebody wants them, they'll get them, and I'll make a little profit into the bargain. So just to give you an illustration of the way you can play Footium, you can run with your club ride or die. You can leave them on OpenSea to sell them, and as soon as they're ready to sell, they'll go as prices hopefully start to pick up when the game gets going. There's several ways you can plan ahead with this, and I think that's the beauty of it as a project. But thank you very much again for tuning in and watching this second video. If you liked it, please do drop a like, leave a comment down below, because it helps get eyes on this. Other people are more likely to see the video if you like and comment, and also consider dropping that subscription there if you want to see more Footium videos as time goes on. The next one will probably be next week. I'd imagine it will be on my clubs and my plans for them. If I get early access to beta though, expect a first look at the gameplay side of things and how the game's going to work. So all that being said, I really appreciate you sticking to the end of the video. Come back for more in a week's time. Otherwise, have a great day and catch you later on.